Life After Sunday, a podcast by dudes, for dudes, where faith meets the real world. For Eric Duval and Mike Norman, I'm Chris Boren. Let's go.
What is up, gentlemen? How are you guys today?
What's up, my brother?
Good evening.
Doing good. Glad to be here.
So we have
we got somebody with us today, don't we?
Yeah, we have a fourth member of the podcast today, Mr. Pyrce Renfroe. How are you doing,
Good
sir?
job, Chris.
I'm doing well. Glad to be on, and glad to have a few days just to chill at home and get caught up on some projects. So
That's wonderful. Before we get started, I'm going to give Mr. Renfro a proper introduction. This young man grew up in Arkansas, graduated from Russellville High School. He is a state champion swimmer. He now is attending the College of the Ozarks in Branson. He worked with the state Republican Party and as an officer and advisor for the Arkansas Teenage Republicans. He used to work at a state-based policy think tank, but has since left and is working on building a photography/marketing company. He's been doing the photo work for 5 years and is working to continue to build that business while working on graduating and staying on top of state politics. And how old are you? 19? What a resume.
19 as of Saturday. So
You just turned 19. What in the world? That is so rare, man. You the man, Pyrce.
You are the man.
I'm glad to be on. Sorry it took a month and a half to get it set, but looking forward to it today.
It is well worth the wait. Right?
Just a bit. What I calculated, all the running that I've been doing since it was a week from Friday. So Friday to Friday, I was right at 1,000 miles, if not a little bit over, just in all the driving out to Fort Smith and Boonville, and a little bit down to Waldron before we called that off, out to Little Rock, Harrison, and everywhere in between, working on some different projects. So yeah, that's kind of what took so long to get on the pod here.
Wow.
Well, I definitely want to
So
hear
we
about
have
the abortion stuff you got going, but we want to get your background first. What you got, Chris?
Also, so we have a few questions that we like to ask every guest that comes on our show. The first question is going to be, what is your favorite app?
Spotify.
Music guy.
No contest.
No contest.
Do you pay for it, or is it a free version?
I pay for it. Well, I'm on the family plan, so technically my dad pays for it, but can't beat that. Yeah, we've got everybody, including the grandparents, on it. We all share and stuff. But I will say a close second is Waze. I have not found another maps app that helps you drive safely while also avoiding all of the things on the road or on the side of the road that might want to come and say hi to you. So,
man, listen,
yeah,
Waze
that's a close second. I'll say.
Cop.
I love marking cops on there, bro. Even when I was a cop, I love marking them because I was a city cop and I despised, writing tickets. And I just can't stand going through towns where that's the only thing you got to do is write tickets. I'll go on a complete rant about it, but me and my friend at work, we love marking them. It just feels, I don't know, so rebellious marking where the speed traps are. And even though I'm a police officer. So yeah, Waze is awesome, especially when you're in Houston. Everybody uses it. So the more people that use it, the more input you get. Stuff works pretty awesome.
So I got a question for you, Pyrce, as it pertains to Spotify and Waze both, because I do just the opposite on both. And so I'm an Apple Music guy. Now, I listen to all my podcasts on Spotify, but compare? What's the difference in, say, Apple Music and Spotify? What makes it better, so to speak?
It's personal preference. I've never used Apple Music. I think Spotify has a little bit more of a selection, but other than that, it really just comes down to preference. So I will say I've got one of the little Apple speakers, and it does not play well with those. You can't really say, I'm going to set everybody's phone off, but you can't say, hey Siri, play something on Spotify. It doesn't play well with that. So you do get that benefit whenever you.
Songs now playing from your iPhone.
There it goes.
There it is.
Yeah, hold on. Turn that off. So yeah,
I got you.
One thing I've noticed with Spotify is because I've had both, and I discover more new music that I've never even heard on Spotify than I do on Apple.
Yeah,
So
the algorithm. I do like the Spotify kind of discovery stuff. That is a plus, I'd say.
What's it cost?
It's the same as Apple Music, if not a little bit cheaper. Apple might have just raised their prices. So.
Okay. And then what about Waze compared to the Google Maps?
Well, Waze is like the OG, marking app. It's the one that everybody uses. Apple has added it. Google has added it, I figure. But, you're not using Apple Maps to see where those things are. You're using Waze because you want to know where, the cops and the obstacles and the traffic reporting and all that stuff is. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's why I use it. I mean, I've been driving
Give it a go.
3 years now. No tickets, never been pulled over because I'm a safe driver. I am a safe and legal driver.
Second question. What is your favorite?
Sorry, we talk over each other. No. Hey, you're just looking out for the cop on the side of the road so you can move a lane over and keep him safe, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
I'm looking for the cop so I can slow down.
We don't speed. I don't know what you're talking about, sir.
No.
Mike, you know what the Bible says about lying, sir?
Oh, that's right. They come it. Yeah. My bad.
All right. Favorite podcasts?
The Jesse Kelly Show. It's a radio show, but it's not a radio show anywhere close to me. So I get the, 12-hour stale version. But it's
old news.
Yeah, my top one. So, you listen to it in the drive-in to work in the morning and get yesterday's news fairly recently. And yeah, it's the best news sort of political conservative show that I've found that's not, boring or anger. I can't stand Mark Levin. It's way too much yelling into the microphone. If I'm gonna spend my time listening to something, then I might as well, be able to laugh in the process. So yeah, it's the guy that does it, Jesse Kelly. He's mid-40s, ex-Marine, and he just it's lighthearted but also accurate. So that's my answer on that one.
Did you ever listen to Rush Limbaugh before he passed?
I did not. That was a little bit before, my time.
Oh, you missed out,
tragedy. I know.
He's only been gone, what? How long has he been gone? 4 years?
Yeah, it's about 4. It was.
Yeah, President Trump was still president, right?
Yeah.
Because Trump had him to the State of the Union right before.
Yeah,
he passed.
Before he passed. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh, you missed out.
I think it's. Yeah.
That's what I've heard. But
hey, I'll say that Jesse's great. I've got him on my Spotify. I don't listen to him every day, but he's in there with Charlie and the rest of the bunch, and he doesn't pull any punches.
No, he doesn't.
But I like him, man. Yeah.
And Life After Sunday is a close second, right?
Absolutely.
I knew that was coming.
It is. It
awesome.
puts it up there in my recommended.
All right. The third question would have been, what would you tell your 20-year-old self? We'll skip that since you're not 20 yet.
No, just
Maybe
just
like 10 years down the road, we'll come back.
Just have him tell his 16-year-old self something.
Yeah, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
Man, I don't know. Maybe
we got
find more ways to get involved, or I don't know. Let's revisit that in a couple minutes. Let me think on it.
Okay.
Oh, that's a pro.
And
did you see that?
Yeah.
He's a pro, man.
What a pro, dude.
This ain't his first rodeo, boys.
Man, I'm telling you.
My man's all over this, man. I like it.
And fourth question, what is something about you that people you know might be surprised to learn?
That in 99.9% of introductions, when someone is, first reading my name or seeing it on a name tag or something, without fail, it'll get pronounced as Pryce. So the same issue that you were having, Chris, that happens in an overwhelming number of instances. It's bad enough that out of my graduating class of close to 400 people, my principals knew to joke with me about them mispronouncing my name before I walked. They said, we're going to call you Pryce when we call you up to walk across the stage. And I was like, you're not going to do that unless you want me to borrow your microphone for a minute and have to correct you. It's like, it happens every time. It's not happening at graduation, guys. So, yeah, that's, the people that know me and have known me my whole life, it's like, well, it's the Y's before the R. It makes sense. But something about my name just gives people dyslexia of the severest degree.
Yep. I've known Pyrce for a while now. I've known his family. We go to church together. Super incredible people. And I have been calling him Pryce, well, as long as I've known him. And finally, one day, your dad, who I just love your dad, he's like, "You mean Pyrce?" I'm like, yeah. That's what I meant. I felt about this tall, dude. Then I went back and looked at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, it is Pyrce.
I rock with either. So
answer to both.
I do. It's
we have the plainest names on the face of the earth: Mike, Eric, and Chris. I mean, don't get any more generic than that, man. So at least you get to have more fun with your name.
I do have that going for me, and I don't have to compete for any sort of usernames, emails, social media, Facebook or Instagram, Twitter, or X or whatever we're calling it these days. None of those have another Pyrce on them. So yeah,
it's typical. We're doing Mike 6007 at Gmail, or all of us. We're toast there.
Yep. We've just got your plain cis, and that's why you say it, cis white male names.
No shame.
So now we're gonna get into the good stuff. We want to go back all the way to a young Pyrce. Tell us about growing up in Arkansas, when you started to swim. Take us back.
Yeah, so I live in the absolute middle of nowhere. I've grown up within the same, quarter of a mile area my whole life, and a lot of outside stuff. We live on a farm. We had cows. We've got ducks. Had chickens. We've been pretty consistent with the ducks, but started doing swim team when I was 5 and kept up with it all the way through the end of my senior year of high school. And so from there, we just rocked with it all the way through COVID, which was kind of ridiculous. They made us wear masks anytime we weren't in the pool. At one point, I thought they were going to have us wearing masks in the pool. I was about ready to throw hands over that situation. There's nothing like being soaking wet, getting out of a pool, ready to just flop out on the side and pass out because you just, we're giving your all during a race, and then your coach comes and starts criticizing you for not wearing a mask on. It's like, respectfully, I'm going to need like 30 seconds because y'all are crazy with this stuff. We're all covered in chlorine. I mean, it's the same stuff you're spraying on the desks. So, yeah, that's where swim took me. I guess that's 13 years and 2 state championship rings and a runner-up. And then we were conference champions, the Russellville high school team. We were conference champions all 4 years. So we would have been state champs my junior year. We won my freshman and sophomore years. And then junior year, we had a few injuries that really hurt us. So, and then we came back senior year and got runner-up. So can't complain there.
So, question for you. Who in Arkansas, like I can tell you who the traditional football powerhouses are. Who are the powerhouses in Arkansas, or do they even exist, or does it just, skip around to different schools at the 6A level?
Yeah, so we were actually Russellville became 7A, I believe, right before I started. So within that, you've got a lot of people. The ones that come to mind, as being the team that always showed up to, kick butt is Subi, the Subiaco Academy. They do a little bit of recruiting. There were these guys, the Wu brothers, and they were exchange students, I believe, or something like that. They might not have been exchange students. I didn't interact with them very much, but it was twins, and they would show up with the Subi team and just kick butt. A lot of what happens, especially sort of what happened my junior year, our guy, just, top notch. This guy, his name was Aiden, junior Olympics level qualifier, that kind of thing. What happens is you hit that level, and then I knew a lot of people that moved out of state to Texas or California, and those programs in the bigger states, the more beachy states, are a much larger program, and they would, your mid-tier people in those programs would show up and mop the floor with just about anybody in Arkansas. So I couldn't tell you names beyond that because a lot of it's very fluid. So
there's not a team that wins state like Russellville is known as the dominant school. It just kind of skips around.
It rotates. Batesville we beat Batesville. They were runner up my freshman and sophomore years, and then they got first in they got, I guess, first my junior and senior years. So it rotates, and it really depends on who you coming up underneath. What really helped, my freshman and sophomore years is the group that I had grown up swimming with from the time, we were 5 and 6. We all swam through to the end of high school. And so, it helps when you have people that are experienced, that, you're not having to start them, when they're 15, and you can instead have, a 10-year track record of experience already. So that's kind of why we tapered off my last 2 years, just because we had some coaching stuff that happened back when, we were 10. We lost our coach and then got a new coach in. And so it travels. And so it rotates through pretty consistently.
Cool.
So growing up, you made it to high school. When did the whole political thing, when you wanted to start doing that, when did that come about in your life?
So,
and what were some influences in your life that brought that on?
Yeah, for sure. So, both of my parents are involved in some sort of, politics, kind of. My dad, not so much on the front facing, but he's pretty, we talk about it. We've talked about it when I'm growing up and talked about it at home and that kind of thing. So I've kind of grown up in an environment where, right from wrong and that kind of thing. But then my mom has actually worked in the pro-life mission field for my whole life. She was a teacher. She taught third grade up until I was born. And then she started volunteering a little bit before I was born, and then she stayed on as a volunteer at Choices Pregnancy Center in Russellville until I was probably 7 or 8. And then after that happened, she went from just volunteering and stay-at-home mom to the director of this nonprofit. So she's been the director there for, I think she's approaching year 13. So it might have been a little bit sooner when I might have been a little bit younger when she started as director, but she just started. The 13th anniversary of her taking over was a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I've grown up, in an environment where we talk about that kind of thing, but also I've gotten to see more the pro-life side of Arkansas and how those things work together to, make life better for Arkansas with, alternatives to abortion and that kind of thing. And we can get into that here in a minute. But yeah, growing up, it was just kind of one of those things that we never shied away from. So in 10th grade, when I had the opportunity to take over I think I took over the social media accounts for the high school Republican group at Russellville. It was kind of one of those things. I was the only one doing anything. The sponsor was completely hands off. The two seniors that were the chair and vice chair said, "Oh, we're just doing it as a resume item." I was like, "Okay, well, you signed up to do it, so why aren't we doing anything?" So I ended up making social media accounts and all that kind of thing. And after that, it just kind of fell into my lap. So I got a message just a weekend. I was at a football game for my little brother, and I got a message from the state affiliate, the ATARs, the Arkansas Teenage Republicans, and they were trying to get started up. They had gotten completely wiped out during COVID. So you had a skeleton crew of guys that were trying to get this group started back up. And they saw that I had made the social media account for Russellville, and they're like, "Oh, well, do you want to be an affiliate," that kind of thing. And so I was like, "Well, absolutely. We'd love to work with the state." And so then from there, it kind of turned into, I could run for one of those offices with the state organization to, "Oh, I'm going to run," to, "Oh, now I'm, helping run this thing." And, then once you get to that level where you're working with the state teenage, young people. So you've got a few tiers to state Republican politics. You've got GOP, which is anybody. You've got just the standard Republican Party of Arkansas. Then you've got Young Republicans, which is 18 through 40. College Republicans, which is anybody in college, and then TRs, Teenage Republicans, which is 13 through 19. And so a little bit of overlap there, but I was working with the TRs, which is the official affiliate of the state Republican Party. And so, you're just going to the meetings that are happening in the spring and in the fall and the winter and that kind of thing. And you're getting to meet and interact with people, legislators and the chair and your county committees and just all these things. And so from there, it's just kind of been, where God has been taking me. It's been pretty cool. So I was in that position with TRs for 2 years, and we rebuilt a lot of what was wiped out during COVID. They didn't have bylaws. They didn't have member roles. They didn't have social media, anything. So I rebuilt the websites and social media and all that stuff, which I've handed off as of last fall. I've handed off to the incoming team because I started college in Missouri. But, for about 2 years there was just all this momentum, and this is going to be blunt, but a lot of the members, the overwhelming majority of members in the state Republican Party are not young. I walk in the room and the average age drops by like 20 years. So, it's important, and we saw a need to have young people be involved in the state and with state politics and that kind of thing, because with Arkansas being as predominantly conservative as it is, I think we have a tendency to forget that these things move in cycles. And so if we're not, contributing more people as that cycle continues going, and, people tend to get lax with voting and tend to, see something on the news and be like, oh, I'm never touching politics again, that kind of thing. It's, it's not sustainable if we don't have people coming in to fill in the shoes of people that are leaving and that kind of thing. So I spent 2 years. We worked with the legislature. We wrote a bill. We lobbied for a bill. We got over 20 co-sponsors in the House for that bill. It was a really solid piece of pro-life legislation that sadly wasn't able to get very much traction in the last legislative session, but we're hoping to bring it back sometime in the next few years. We got to meet with the governor twice over it. There's just been a lot of really cool things that have come about as the result of me volunteering to take over social media for a high school club. So that's kind of the short version, and that covers up to last fall. So,
well, let me ask you, Pyrce. That's amazing stuff. I keep going back to you said what, your sophomore year, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes you what, 16?
15
at that time, is that right? 15?
Yeah.
Okay, so go back to that time at 15 years old, stepping out there and putting yourself out there in this role. What was there pushback and blowback, or did you get a hard time for it?
Not,
and if so, what was that like? How did you stand up to it?
Not really. I mean, at that point, it was just one of those things of, you're looking sophomore year of high school, you're looking, what do I need to be able to put on a resume or to be able to, have beyond just academics. And so it was one of those things of, okay, well, I do media, I do design, I know how to operate social media. Let's take something and run with it. And then, just kind of kept on running. So the rest of it, there's not very much pushback. There was a period where people were tearing down our posters and that kind of thing. But other than, typical petty 15 to 17-year-old behavior, it was pretty smooth sailing just as far as working and doing that kind of thing at the high school. So
I got you.
It sounds like you saw a need and you fulfilled the need, and you made some outstanding changes for that young Republican Party and for our state, and we'll commend you for that for sure. So when and where, why did you decide to go to the College of the Ozarks? Let's talk about getting in there, some of what that college stands for, what that college even is, because it's extremely hard to get into. I believe it's all service-based and that sort of thing. So kind of touch on where you go to school and what you're going to school for.
Yeah, for sure. So College of the Ozarks, it's about 5 minutes south of Branson. It's Point Lookout, Missouri. It shares an exit with Hollister. You pass through it if you're going to Branson from Arkansas. Incredibly pretty campus. Just, quick plug there. If you haven't gone and eaten at the Keeter Center, it's like the best food in that area, in my opinion. But yeah, it's a conservative Christian private school. They they do a work study program. It's one of only a few in the country. Pretty much no one that is attending there is paying tuition. We all work during the week, and then we take a few weeks throughout the year, and we work. It comes out to about 300 hours per semester, and that covers our tuition. And then the only thing that you're on the hook for is your room and board. So it's a really, really good program. It gives you a really great opportunity and ability to graduate debt-free. And I had a friend that came back and started working. She graduated from there and then started working with my mom at the pregnancy center, and she started telling me a little bit more about it. And it's like, okay, that's viable. That's a contender on the list, and then you go start applying to all these, and that ended up being the one that came out on top. And I'm loving it so far. I've done a semester. So I started in January instead of last August. I got waitlisted. They don't really tell people why they waitlist you. It's just kind of something that they have to do because it's they have to have a rolling list. So I've done one semester. I will be approaching junior status by the end of this semester, and I'm graduating with a public relations and marketing degree. So marketing minor, PR major. And yeah, the best way I've heard it put is PR is the message and marketing is the numbers to promote the message. So yeah, it's been a really good program, good people, good just really great environment.
It sounds amazing, man, and you're just an amazing individual, man. In your short life, you've already done so much, and it really blows my mind. When I was 19, I was not thinking about anything you're thinking about at all. And anyway, I want to go back a little bit to, you said in your intro that you have a photography business. Take us back a little bit to when you fell in love with photography, what kind of photography you shoot, and how your business is going. Give us a shameless plug for your business, man.
For sure, will do. Not afraid to do that. So I've had a camera in my hand since I was 8. My dad was big in it when he was in college, and then he just kind of got me into it when I was little. I let that camera sit on the shelf for 5-6 years, and then in high school, I was like, hey, this is a good opportunity to monetize. So I got a really good start at church. Eric and I go to New Life in Russellville, and just there's a really good community, and I've got a lot of friends there. And so, when I was just getting started, they really helped me to, grow and that kind of thing, and to the point where I was confident enough to start doing it as a job. So, headshots, senior pictures, weddings. I hate weddings, but sometimes they're a necessary evil to do. It's just, I love it. I was actually today working through some headshots that I did. I did team pictures for the Russellville swim team, and then also the high school band seniors. So, it's just been a really enjoyable thing that I've had the ability to work on. And and then just throwing in the design and videography side of that as well. I didn't even mention this, a lot of the job that I was doing for that state-based organization that was working on policy and, public awareness and that kind of thing was the media and design for their social media and email campaigns and that kind of thing. So, just taking the God-given creativity and skills that I've been blessed with and being able to use those in a bunch of different areas is a lot of fun, and I really love getting to do that.
Have you incorporated the drone
of your
into
photography
that
business?
So not yet. I don't have my part 107 to monetize that. I was looking, at what it takes to get into real estate photography and that kind of thing, and you've got to pass. It's pretty much a pilot's license, but dumbed down to be able to monetize drone work. So there's a really big market for real estate photography, especially aerial real estate photography. But I've been looking at that just this summer, and up until Friday, I've been all over the place and just haven't had a chance to pursue that because the closest testing facility to me, on top of the couple $100 that it costs to take it, is about an hour and a half. So just it's not off the table, but as far as the FAA and the IRS are concerned, no, not yet.
Yeah. Well, I got my Part 107 through the Pilot Institute online. So I have the option to go to police training, and I just to get, certified on my, for free basically through a police organization. And I'm not real impressed with police classes, so I chose to go myself online. So if you want to find a place, Pilot Institute, I want to say I paid $300 or $400. And when you leave that course, I think I scored a 93 on the test. The guys who went through that class were, the police class were passing. I didn't want to be the guy who just passed to say I had it. I actually wanted to know the material, And so the Pilot Institute was real easy. Just went through it, learned it all, did the practice test, showed up to the testing facility, and it was done. So there's some free advice for you. And Chris was asking, what's the name of your photography business?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It's just Pyrce Renfroe Photography right now. I'm working on something a little bit more, quippy there, but PR photo has gotten the job done for the last few years. So
like it.
Nice.
We'll be sure
Nice
to
and
post
simple.
links.
And I got
for sure.
get us some links. I before we get too far out of what we were talking about earlier, I want to go back just a little bit because I'm really interested in this whole the teenage Republican thing. So on a couple of layers. One, here in Arkansas, I mean, it is a predominantly conservative state. So are there several of these groups? Are they really active, or is it not where it should be? Or first of all, where does it stand? Is it still active today?
It is to an extent. We had our convention in September where we elected new officers. It's where I stepped down and that kind of thing. And I have been trying to get more out of them since September. It's been a little bit of an uphill battle just because the new chair that took over is currently in law school. We had a guy that was going to be still in high school, kind of fit the demographic a little bit better. And he did not win that election of our members. And so the current chair has been doing law school and that kind of thing. So it's kind of tapered off just a little bit. We've still got a few chapters going across the state. But I think the biggest issue is less our people and more, willingness and motivation at the state level for the existing, GOP to support and be involved in that kind of thing.
Really?
There is a really, in my opinion, not bad rap, but really big hesitancy for young people to get involved because just, from what I've seen and that just in doing this is it gets territorial fast. And you start bringing in a bunch of new people, then that means potentially, an upset to the status quo. So it could thrive right now. It is still a work in progress, still rebuilding from COVID, that kind of thing. It's definitely not, a complete loss, but it's just an uphill battle at all times because you just have that base challenge of your membership is only really eligible for 3 to 4 years, give or take. Sometimes you'll have a 13-year-old that wants to pitch in, but they can't drive. They can't, not active on social media, that kind of thing. So it is just an inherent challenge to have something that's healthy when you're looking at that age group. But beyond that, I do think it could thrive a lot better if we had some more backup from the state party as a whole. So hope that answered that question.
So basically what I'm hearing is the old people are letting you down a little bit, or letting the kids down a little bit.
You said it.
Old people, you know what I mean? Yeah.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. It's there is a bit of a hesitancy, even at the local level. We've got county GOPs in just about every county in the state. They, sometimes there is resistance there. So,
how is it compared to young Democrats? Like you're opposing youthful, Democrats. How is it doing compared to them? Are they just better at it naturally? Tell me how that looks.
Yeah, so they're better on social media. They definitely have more of that sort of influencer vibe to them because they've got a lot more of the media on their side, a lot more of the influencers on their side. You make a tweet. I mean, there's a tweet that was made this weekend about the abortion amendment, which we'll get into in just a minute, that got 4 million views from one of the more young Democrat individuals in Arkansas. And, we've got our people out over here trying our best. And it's just, they are a little bit ahead of us in just understanding, at least at the state level, not necessarily nationally, but at the state level, we have a lot of, still this mindset of the best way to conquer this is with a mailer and an ad in the newspaper. And that does not fly as well these days. And so it's just, turning the cruise ship is not done in a year. So it's
just because everybody starts off kind of, it seems like everybody kind of starts off as a Democrat and then they grow up and have kids and realize that's probably not the best choice to raise a conservative family and to have good values. So hopefully that's that's why it's like that, I guess, because conservative values aren't exciting by nature.
I hope so. And it also comes down to, I think a lot of it is the church is silent on a lot of these issues. We've that really is not going to be able to fly in the next decade or so because the opposition is going so far one way that if we don't start equipping our people to at least stay here, then we're going to see, kind of the Overton window shift. And, this was considered extreme, but now it's way out here. So, this actually sounds moderate, that kind of thing. If we don't do a better job of equipping our own people, young and old, to understand and reinforce our current values, then, it's going to be something to definitely be watching over the next few years.
I want to go so far as to say that the church being silent for so long is why this country is in the shape that it's in right now.
Absolutely.
100%.
And we haven't touched on it yet, but there is an amendment to the Arkansas Constitution that has been put forward. And it would essentially allow abortions through 5 months of pregnancy, 5 months from conception, with no restrictions able to be imposed by the legislature whatsoever, and then up to birth at the discretion of a doctor. So current Arkansas law says there are exceptions for life of the mother if mom is in danger of, sepsis or ectopic pregnancy or that kind of thing. Those can be treated. But in other instances, we're going to respect that baby and treat that baby as a human, and we're going to protect that baby. What this amendment would allow is essentially through 5 months of pregnancy, no restrictions whatsoever. And then after that 20-week mark, from there until birth, it's for assault cases, for fatal fetal anomaly, which is where a doctor has made the decision that the baby won't be born alive, and as such, it would be better to induce, or the health of the mother. So that is where a doctor can pretty much look at a pregnant lady and say, oh, any medical reason, the health of the mother. Well, do you have depression? Are your feet swollen? Do you have acne? That kind of thing. And use a health reason as opposed to the life of the mother to justify a late-term abortion. And these issues would be enshrined in our state constitution with no ability to reverse. It is really, in my opinion, it would be incredibly detrimental not only to our state, but also the culture of our state. So when you're looking at what you're incentivizing in our state constitution, those assault instances, assault is a terrible thing. And, the rape and incest cases, the people that are perpetrating those offenses need to be, punished to the fullest extent of the law, and then some, if it warrants it. But what you're doing is putting those instances in the state constitution and saying, well, if you change your mind after 5 months, all you have to say is, oh, I was assaulted. And A, you're going to ruin a young man's life. And B, there's no requirement for any sort of proof for that. You can just make that claim, and there's no provision for that in the way that it's written. So these issues are going to be going into our state constitution. And, I've even been telling people that I understand where someone is coming from if they think that there need to be exceptions for rape, incest, fatal fetal anomaly, that kind of thing, because those only make up, right now, those make up less than 1.5% out of that whole pie chart. I can understand why I am of the opinion that baby is a baby and that human deserves life, but I can at least, understand those few instances. But what this is doing is blowing the hinges off and pretty much saying up to birth at the discretion of a doctor. And there's no going back once it goes in the state constitution. So that has been a lot of, I said earlier, I've driven almost 1,000 miles in the last week. A lot of it has been doing blocking, and, I've been saying anti-petitioning or anti-canvassing. These individuals had to have 101,000 they had to have 91,000 signatures to qualify for the ballot in November. They turned in 101,500 signatures on Friday. And we fought tooth and nail to keep them from qualifying that. I was out in Logan County a lot. I was out in Russellville a lot. I went out to Fort Smith and stood outside the Fort Smith Library with them for 8.5 hours on Tuesday. Like, it's just been a lot of, being there and informing people, because a lot of what they've even been telling people is just lies about what it does and the purpose and that kind of thing. And, it all comes back to the church has not been vocal enough on this issue at all. I say vocal enough, vocal at all would be a good first step in addressing this issue, because 1 in 4 women are post-abortive. And so it's something that we need to address from a biblical worldview, but it also needs to be done in a way that, it says that's a baby, that's a human, let's work through this past hurt while also respecting life moving forward.
Yes.
And so, just sort of looping it back into the churches.
How many of those signatures do you know what the estimate is for validation when they typically do this?
Yeah, so they have to, the way that it works, they had to have 90,704 signatures, and 5% of the people that voted in the last gubernatorial election, in order to even grace the door of the Secretary of State's office with those petitions. So now that they've hit that minimum threshold, they qualified 54 counties, and they turned in 10,000 signatures more than they needed. That means that now the Secretary of State has to verify all of those signatures. So they have to be a registered voter. They have to be 18. They have to be, there's a whole checklist that the state is going to go through and check. So if it comes out that less than roughly 68,000 of those signatures, let's say out of that 110, only 67,000 were valid, then it's game over for them. It doesn't go to the ballot. That, in my opinion, is best case scenario. We won't have to worry about it in November if that is the case. Historically, though, you only see 15 to 30% thrown out, which means they're more than likely going to get what's called the cure period. So the cure period is where you turned in 91, but less than 91 were valid. Less than 91, but more than 68,000 were valid. They fall in that window. Then you get a 30-day cure period where you get to go and collect signatures. So that 30 days starts from the time that the Secretary of State signs off on it. So the Secretary of State has 30 days to sign off on verifying those signatures. So they're still collecting signatures right now. And then that collection will run up until 30 days from when the Secretary of State tells them they can collect again. Okay. So we have spent a lot of a lot of time, a lot of man hours trying to stop them from getting these signatures. In my opinion, I'm not aware of any instances where a ballot initiative has gotten that 30-day cure period and not made it to the ballot. They collected 34,000 signatures in a week for this just to be able to turn in. They were 21,000 short last Wednesday. So,
oh my gosh,
in a week, they
Wow.
blew through their minimums. So I don't see any reason. And they were doing paid canvassers. They were paying. I found the listing on Indeed. They were paying petitioners $50 an hour to go out and get signatures. And all they have to do is do that again to get that minimum. So more than likely, this is going into November. So the biggest hurdle that I see right now, they're already talking about getting influencers. They've got Hillary on the line. They're trying to find some local artists in Arkansas. Chris Allen is one. They had a concert in Fayetteville. They've had a few concerts in Fayetteville over the last few months. One of the artists in particular, I'm not remembering his name right now, but he gave him a shout out at the stage and told the entire audience, go sign the petition, that kind of thing. We're going to see a lot of out-of-state money and a lot of in-state influence push for this. And if we don't see in-state, that more than likely there's not money coming in to save us from out of state because they're too busy worried on protecting, they're too busy protecting their own state. I mean, we've got 3 or 4 other states across the country that are dealing with the same exact issue, a permanent, alteration to the state constitution. This is not a one-off. It happened in Ohio. It happened in Kansas already, and they want to bring it here. Every time that they have ran a ballot initiative putting abortion in the state constitution, it has passed with a pretty healthy margin. So the biggest part of this that I see is, making sure that people are knowledgeable and making sure that the church is actively fighting to make people knowledgeable instead of just, sitting by the wayside as they have been. I have traveled thousands of miles since coming home from school in the second week of May. There should be no reason that, 3 people were having to cover at one point 8 counties in our area. Where is the church in all of this? So that's going to be the biggest hurdle between now and November is making people aware of what's happening and how they can stop it.
Sounds like that.
I did hear this. Sorry, Chris. I did hear that one of the canvassers for like the casino deal, they said when they walked up to him, they said, "What is this for?" And they said, "This is if you want a casino in this county, sign it," which was the opposite of what he was actually collecting signatures for. So have you heard stories like that regarding the abortion, them lying about what they're doing?
We have, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think of the best instance. I've heard it called the women's rights one or the reproductive rights amendment. They don't read it. They don't tell them what it does. They just say, oh, this is just to put women's rights on the ballot. And then you got, little Miss Phyllis out there is like, oh, okay, sweetie, that sounds like a great plan. And she signs it and doesn't understand that she just supported full-term abortions. And I think we're going to see if we are not making sure that the pro-life side of Arkansas is aware as to the full extent of what this does, the way that it's written right now puts rape and incest in the first 3 lines of the title. And then all the other really bad stuff is a page or 2 away. So even within the pro-life community, a lot of people support those exceptions. And so my biggest hurdle that I see us having to overcome is not only the people that are completely ignorant to the issue, but also our own people that, maybe agree partially, but need to be brought in and brought up to speed on all of the other things that it brings with it.
Right.
It sounds like
it seems to me. Go ahead, Chris. It seems to me like the GOP or conservatives, I can't say GOP, conservatives as a whole across the country have wrote as a whole, all of us, but have written the abortion issue off as a loss, and are just running from it.
Essentially.
Even President Trump, to an extent, who I love and what we voted for, is running from it because you can't win on it.
Even today, I've got a friend that is at the RNC convention right now. He's a state senator. He's on the platform committee. Today, like 4 hours ago, the Republican National Committee Rules Platform Committee made the decision to strip a lot of our current platform regarding the sanctity of life from the national Republican platform. They took it from saying, the Republican Party will work to ensure that at a federal level and at a national level, abortion is banned, and the individuals and those babies have the right to life and an equal right to life as everyone else. And now the new one, the revised edition, they took the entire party platform from a 66-page platform to a 16-page platform, and a lot of that was cutting the pro-life section. And the new updated version essentially just says, per the 14th Amendment, we recognize the state's right to protect life or ensure that everyone has an equal right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we will work to make sure that late-term abortions are not happening. So they took it and pretty much put it in a single paragraph that said, well, pretty much do whatever, but, try not to do it past, 30 weeks. So, yeah, no, and it's pretty disappointing and disheartening because what happened is they had a bunch of delegates that were appointed by President Trump who came in and just swept the entire delegation. And, this is an issue that, because our side has not been vocal enough on it, that we've got candidates that feel that it's okay to get up and try to justify the abortion pill. J.D. Vance this morning on the news got up and was like, yeah, I think you should be allowed to get the abortion pill. And like he's a top 3 candidate for the vice presidency, and Trump said the same exact thing. So because of silence on this issue, we're seeing that Overton window that I talked about earlier just get bumped further and further out to where, it was abortion is bad. We're not going to be okay with this, to now it's, well, some abortions are bad. And so it's like, no, respectfully, Senator, and respectfully, President Trump, the abortion pill starves a baby of vital nutrients that it needs to survive. It's not okay just because it's below whatever, weak mark your polling says most people agree with, and it's a result of silence on the issue because nobody wants to touch it. It's a polarizing issue and one that everyone has an opinion on, but it should not be something that, especially as Christians, that we shy away from and saying, ending the life of a human is bad. Like that should not be a polarizing standpoint within the church. And it's something that we're going to have to work on, especially in the next few years, if we want to keep existing pro-life protections in place.
It sounds like that amendment is very general when it comes to, you talked about everything it states at the beginning of this conversation, but very general in like illnesses and things like that. Something could be any illness, not necessarily even life-threatening, like you said, if our foot's hurting or depression, anxiety, all that kind of stuff. And I think if you're a pastor and you're listening to this, you need to be shouting it from the pulpit what this amendment really is, and you need to tell your congregation what it really is. You need to get them up to speed, and we need to help push this thing. This abortion is completely demonic, if you want to know my take on the whole thing. And the church, the church and the GOP, the political party, is trading land for peace and on this abortion issue. And we need to not trade land for peace. It needs to not be peace, and we need to fight for this. We need to fight for pro-life, and life begins at conception. Bottom line in the story.
Absolutely. And just one more quick plug here. I've put together a place where people can go to get more information and get assistance, especially pastors, that kind of thing. We've got a good team going with the pregnancy center directors and some of the Right to Life groups. It's called Arkansans for Life. It's just a Facebook group. It's got a blue and pink banner. If any of your listeners want to help get involved and that kind of thing, and even just get information, Arkansans for Life is where we've been coordinating a lot of information out of. It's kind of been blowing up over the last few days. I'm happy to report we've added almost 150 people since news broke that they hit their signature requirement. So I'd love to be at 1,000 people by the end of this week, because all it takes is a few people sharing it to a few people that can share it. And now I've had a friend who this happened to a few days ago. She shared some videos that she got of these pro-abortion people turning in their signature pages at the Capitol on Friday. And I was there. They were physical. They were loud. They were rude and ugly. All the things that you would come to expect from people that think it's okay to kill babies. Not surprising behavior to people that are, on site and have been dealing with this for years. But, she texted me right before we started the show here, and within 2 days, that post has, I believe, 42,000 impressions. Yeah, it's been shared 269 times and has reached 45,000 people, almost 46,000. And it's just a video and screenshots of the way that these people are acting. So it's not, a hard message for our side to promote, because it's the truth. And the truth is, these people are crazy. These people, including we had a bunch of OB-GYNs on site with us at the Capitol being, really, really rude and ugly to everybody. And it's just once people understand who these people are and the way that they act and where they're coming from, our side wins. Right. It's just getting people to know.
Why do you think, I've always wondered this, and why does, in this, it doesn't matter where you go, they never talk about this. Why does the dad, have no say in it whatsoever? Like it's always about women, and it's like they just blow off the fact that the dad doesn't, we have no say whatsoever into it. It just blows my mind how even at the national level, anytime you see pro-life stuff, it's just never discussed. I'm just as responsible for the pregnancy as the female is, and yet it's like no one cares about the guy. Just blows us off.
And, I do think a big step in addressing that is requiring the man in that situation. Most recent numbers that I have seen show that 97.5% of abortions are elective abortions. They're not as a result of assault. They're not as a result of life of the mother, that kind of thing. They're just because people are being irresponsible. So I do think a big part of this issue is, addressing the fact that men need to be responsible for this as well. It's not a one party, it's not just it's not just a ladies issue. It's both sides. And so, I don't think you should be able to have an abortion and kill your baby, but I also don't think you should be able to leave someone that you got pregnant. You made that decision, follow through. And I do think that's a very big cultural issue. If we have a culture that, respects each other and respects life, then that abortion wouldn't even be a problem. So once again, it comes down to within the church, what are we doing to stop it? An overwhelming majority, and I don't have the stats on hand, but an overwhelming majority of people that were post-abortive, they did a study, and I just saw these numbers, late last night. It came out to over 70 to 80% said that they have a religious background, and within that, Christian. they broke it down into the individual denominations, not just Christianity, Catholicism, that kind of thing. So, yeah, like if you're a pastor listening, now is, and I put this on Twitter, and it's got a pretty good response. Like, now is not the time for timidness. It's the time to, stand up straight and say what needs to be said, because if we don't, then it gets really scary really fast for what it means for our society.
Do you have a Twitter handle you want to share or anything?
I do. Yeah, it's my goofy spelled name at Pyrce, Pyrce Renfro. Just my name. Didn't have to fight anybody or add any numbers at the end. But yeah, it's been a challenge so far, just trying to get churches to get involved with this, and so it's going to be important. I'm planning some content, and I know other groups across the state are planning some content to really target the church and the people within the church, because an overwhelming majority of Arkansans attend some form of church. We are a Christian conservative state by and large. We should have no problem defeating this if our people will show up and vote, and if our people will show up and vote against killing babies.
So let me ask you, Pyrce. I'm glad you put that right there, and this is a great spot, I think, to ask you this question. We know. So let's just say we do defeat it in November. Okay, where does that leave us? Because we know that that's not going to be the end. The left and the other side is going to continue. What's next? What happens then? You think?
Yeah, so they're already making plans for 2026. If this were to fail, they're going to keep hitting this until it passes. At some point, they're going to get enough money in, and enough because they're collecting the people that have signed. That's all public record. I'm planning on going in and getting all the signatures this week as soon as they're available, just so we can start doing data analysis on all of it. Like, their side this is honestly the trial run, and if they weren't even expecting it to pass. Like, based off of what I've seen, they're not even expecting this to make it as far as it has. So, they're feeling motivated now, but when we hopefully defeat it in November, they've already made plans to hit it again in 18 months. So,
wow,
like it is, and that is a flaw. I'm going to be really straight with how our state is set up. That is a flaw in how our state is governed. We are one of few states in the country that allows what they have dubbed direct democracy. And, if you have, even cracked open a history book, you understand that democracies never work. At least in the purest form that they're using it as. It allows citizens to propose a ballot initiative and, run with it. I am hopeful that they don't make it that far. It comes down to who has the most money, which is why democracies kind of suck. It's just, what point can you browbeat people with enough that they support it? We're going to see in Ohio, they spent close to $40 million to get it passed there. So they're going to make plans to run it again. There are a few ways that the legislature, I know, is looking to address it in terms of, where their money can come from, that kind of thing. But this is not going away. Roe and Casey being overturned with the Dobbs decision, a few summers ago, that didn't fix the problem. It made it, honestly, like, that was the starting gun. The pro-life movement spent 50 some odd years getting to the point where Dobbs could have happened, and we can overturn Roe. But all that did is move that fight from the Supreme Court to the state house and the state legislatures, because it's now able to be determined by the people, and there's a lot of money to support this. So yeah, I mean, the legislature can do as much as they can. They already imposed a 50 county rule on them. So, if they were to have ran this in the last election cycle, they would have been able to get 91,000 signatures from 15 counties. So that means you're targeting Pulaski, Saline, Washington, Benton, Sebastian, Craighead, and surrounding metro areas, Little Rock, Fort Smith, Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas, Jonesboro, like all of those. They expanded that to where now you have to get 50 counties, 5% of voters in 50 counties, not just 15. But even that's already been hit with a lawsuit. And I'm just hoping that the Arkansas Supreme Court doesn't take that up until after the election, because if the Supreme Court takes that up, and we have a conservative Supreme Court, but I don't know how they're going to rule. I've got friends on the court. I still don't know how they're going to rule on that, because it is kind of one of those things of, can the legislature do that? Can they not do that? We need them to be able to do that. But is that how our Constitution is written, to allow those restrictions? But beyond that, it's just going to come down to stopping them from getting hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars from out-of-state money. Right now, it's called the BQC, a ballot question committee. These committees can essentially receive an infinite amount of money from anyone, in-state, out-of-state, overseas, whatever. I know an idea that I think would be good to pursue is, treating them like a political campaign. Small donor only, $3,300 maximum or $3,500 maximum. That kind of thing, to try, because a lot of what they did, the only initiatives that made it on the ballot this cycle were ones that were able to pay canvassers to go and get signatures. So there's a few things that can be done, but it ultimately comes down to, are we the people going to make an informed decision and protect life? And it starts with, the people that lead the pro-life movement stepping up and saying, hey, we're going to make an informed decision and protect babies.
I want to go back to, you talked about making some content, and you may have even already thought about this, but you make some content, and can we get it out to the churches? Can we get flyers out to the churches? Can we get some talking points for these pastors out to the churches, things that they can put on their projector screen, a short video, things that information for them? Is that
absolutely?
out there?
And we've been doing some of that. Yeah, we've been doing that. I've made some short little videos. There is a church, I will give them credit, Reach Church out of Fayetteville has been really good on this as far as their production team helping us make content. But we can make videos and graphics and flyers and door hangers and billboards and all of the things, and it doesn't do any good if it's not being promoted. So a lot of what we're seeing is just, at the state level, guys, at the state level, the Baptist Convention has said we're not touching it. The Baptists at the state level, the Baptists spent, anything's greater than zero, but way more time and energy and resources on trying to stop the stinking casino petition or stop the stinking casino from coming to Russellville than they have on something that's going to enable the deaths of tens of thousands of babies. Like per these people that are pushing for abortion, per their own marketing, they want Arkansas to be the abortion hotspot of the South. Part of their training guides and their training videos, I went through their volunteer training just to understand where they're coming from. Part of that is saying, if abortion becomes legal in Arkansas, it's going to have a far-reaching and significant impact in the South. Like they want our state to be where people come to from Missouri, from Oklahoma, from Texas, from Louisiana, from Alabama, and travel into these places. They show a map with different colored states saying, look at the impact we will have if we pass this. And there's just been a lot of hands-off approach to it. Like, it'll happen if it happens. It's like, no, we can't do that, guys.
Well, I was sitting here and I was just about to ask you if or I'm sitting here thinking about when you were talking about the church and talking about the ballot in November. I'm sitting here thinking, well, if Arkansas, if the church turns out, this thing loses handily.
Yep.
And then you go and throw that did you say the Baptist Association? Is that what you said it was?
Yeah, I am hoping that they change their minds now that it's more than likely going to the ballot. But yeah, at the state level, the State Baptist Convention said, nope, We're
How
not.
is that even possible? How is that even?
I think it's like you said. We had signature collectors at I go to a Baptist church, and they had signature. They were collecting signatures for the casino against the casino in the lobby. And so I thought that's interesting, and it's amazing. It's like they've all become this county has become consumed with the casino thing, and now that you mention it, that's all anybody talks about. Meanwhile, behind but that's the Democrat way. It's you get us looking over here at this, and meanwhile they're coming in the back door over here. And they're just so good at incrementalism, changing things just a little at a time. Then when we get lazy, we forget about it. And then, like you said, they use those key words at the beginning, which account for, they use those 3 words, to talk about less than 1% of all abortions. And then everybody quits paying attention in this ADD TikTok world we live in and don't follow anything through. And I just did a quick look up on the internet. I think worldwide abortions last year was 73 million human beings. Is it higher than that? Is it higher than that? 73 million?
I hope it's not higher than that. I will say that is probably only the number of surgical procedures. So I touched on.
You're right.
I touched on the number of or on the abortion pill earlier. The abortion pill makes up over 2/3 at this point, around 2/3 of all abortions that are being done. It's illegal in Arkansas. I have a friend that ordered it just to see if she could. One of the pregnancy center directors out of Northwest Arkansas ordered the pill from a website. Actually, I'm not going to promote the website. She ordered the pill, cost her $150. For 2 weeks later, she had the pill in hand, mailed from India.
Yep.
She handed it in to Tim Griffin, the Attorney General. And he said, well, I can't do anything about it. It's illegal under state law. It is. I went through that whole website myself just to see what the process looked like. It asked, do you know how far along you are? Are you being forced to buy this? Have you had medical issues in the past? I took the most severe slate of answers to those questions. I am currently septic. I am being forced to do that. That's a felony right there. Being forced to do it is just plain in law a felony. I did that through probably 8 pages of those questions, and it still let me get to the order page. And anybody can do that. So
What in the world?
Yeah, no, and the way that it's disgusting. So, I mean, I hope that number. I mean, they're all terrible. I hope that it's not, 3 times as many. But, I mean, the report from the state shows that Arkansas currently sat at 0 abortions last year. Well, that's 0 surgical, but how many people are ordering the pill in? So, not only do we have to keep the ground that we're at, but we have to continue advancing. And the only way that happens is if enough people are making people aware, so that then we can elect people that are going to make change happen. Because this fight is by no means where it needs to be.
My pastor always says that if you're a Christian and you don't vote your biblical worldview, you might as well have voted for an abortion. You might as well have just voted for that amendment to pass. Yep. And it's wild. And we've had several speakers come to our church, and you talk about, the Democrats or whoever's pushing this, the people that are pushing the abortion issue say, they want it to be the abortion capital of the South and all this stuff. And we've got people coming in our pulpit, Clay Nash, and to name a few, and say, as goes Arkansas, so goes the nation. I never thought about it being on the flip side in a bad way, but I think that it could be a bad way from what you just said if this gets passed.
Absolutely. Yeah, they want to make an example out of Arkansas. Arkansas has been the number one pro-life state as ranked by Americans United for Life for the last 4 years in a row. They have ranked us as the number one pro-life state in the country. So, if they were able to knock us off of that pedestal, then it's just going to fan the flames for what they're wanting to do across the country.
Man. So let me ask you, obviously there's a problem here, but what about right here at home, right here in Las Vegas and Pope County? Is there any support, any groups helping you? Is the county GOP getting involved at all in any way to help with anything?
I pitched it to the Pope County GOP at last month's meeting, at the last one I was at, and I pitched it. That was for the May meeting. I pitched it to Pope County at the May meeting, and I pitched it to Yale County at the June meeting. And it's been radio silence from both of those. I mean, I will give credit where credit is due. Yale County has helped a little bit. They were more active in at least communicating and being willing to help. None of their members ever, stepped up and were able to. But as far as locally in Russellville goes, it was for most of these events where we were out trying to stop signature collection, it was me and the biggest group I was able to get put together, and it was for the last signature collection event that they had scheduled for Pope County, was 7 people. So most of the time it was me and 1 or 2 other people out at these events. And it was not sponsored by a church. It was not done through a church group. It was just a few individuals that wanted to pitch in where they could. So yeah, no, there is, especially locally, there is work to be done.
That's super frustrating to me. And I've before I say anything else, I've got to admit that that's kind of on me. I don't get involved. I've talked about getting involved with the local county Republican Party, and I haven't done it. But that's just so disappointing. It's really got me upset. I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around this, but why isn't there should be a gazillion churches here in Pope County? Yeah. Why is that?
Yeah. What? Because
why is that happening?
Why is this such a hands-off thing, do you think?
That's what I was trying to get to. Yeah.
Well, I can't really speak for any of the people that haven't, jumped in yet. But what I will say is there is not a pastor in Pope County that has not had ample opportunity to be aware and know about this issue. I said earlier, my mom's a pregnancy center director. Right when this first, popped off, I personally wasn't expecting them to run this until 2026. So we had started some preparation for it, but it was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't think that they were going to try to run it, this election cycle. But when they announced it, my mom hosted an all pastors meeting for Clarksville, Dardanelle, Russellville, all the surrounding, area. She had over 60 pastors there, and none of them have beyond a few churches that have had a few of their members step up. Honestly, outside of Fellowship Bible, I can't tell you one that has been actively involved. And honestly, I think Fellowship Bible is because their pastor is on the board of directors for the pregnancy center, so they're much more in the middle of everything. But other than that, we had a few guys, a gentleman and his wife from Victory Baptist, right over by Cracker Barrel and New Life, right there in the back of E. Harrell at the very end, across from IHOP. Mm-hmm. We had a few people from their church, and beyond that, it was very, very low involvement from any of the pastors. And it's not, once again, it's not that they didn't know, it's that they chose not to help. They know who to go to for resources and how to get involved. Like, it's at this point, in my opinion, it looks like intentional ignorance. We're just going to stick our head in the sand and hope this blows over without us having to do anything, because they don't want to be polarizing within their own church body. I can name names of people in my own church, that I would bet a good chunk of money that they even signed this petition. And it's like, I understand that churches don't want to split their membership, but also, church isn't supposed to be somewhere where you go to be comfy, and especially not on this issue.
What does
it should be a slam dunk here.
Let me say something real quick. I go to Bell's Chapel Assembly of God, and there's a pro-life center in Morrilton, and we constantly have these baby bottles that we fill up with money all the time. Pass them out to everybody, fill them in. I don't even know the name of the pregnancy center, but
I don't know the center name, but that's Miss Melinda. She is a rock star in your area. So, and like I said,
I go to church in Atkins. I'm on the board at my church, and I will make a vow that we will. My pastor pushes it, but we will push it more. Any content you can give me, any information, I do our media. I will make sure it's on the screen. I will make sure it's talked about. 100%.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, and I've kind of been telling people. I actually just got another message here a minute ago of people starting to come in through social media and be like, okay, how can I help? I wasn't even aware that this was an issue. How can I help? And I've told people, we're in a bit of a holding pattern for the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks as they count these signatures and that kind of thing. But after that, if it ends up going to the ballot, then it is all hands on deck. We need every single individual that says Jesus Christ is Lord to be telling all of their people who can tell their people that this is on the ballot. Don't believe the ads that you're going to see in your Facebook feed and on the billboards and in the newspaper and in your mailbox when they send out mailers saying that this is to support women and children in Arkansas. Like, it's just, at this point, it's a mass information campaign.
So what like, tell me, on a volunteer, like if someone had volunteered for you to be the opposing force at like a signature gathering for the opposing side, what was your job there? And then number 2, come November, or you're in a holding pattern for 2 weeks, what would a volunteer do besides what you just mentioned? Do at a volunteer event?
Yeah, for sure. So if they end up going and collecting more signatures, they're going to be targeting their smaller counties. They just barely got Perry County qualified. Like that margin was not very big in Perry County. They're probably going to be hitting Logan County again. We boxed them out of Logan County. We ran them out of the library there. It really is just going to come down to monitoring monitoring people's own communities. And then a lot of what I was doing was just giving them, a 10-second elevator pitch. Some people are more comfortable going and holding a big poster that says decline to sign, abortions up to birth are too extreme or more extreme than Roe v. Wade, that kind of thing. I personally find that to be incredibly ineffective. Instead, what I was doing at these events that I would go out to, and what I was encouraging other people to do, was we have flyers that have information on them. They're just on, a little cut piece of paper, and pretty much just walk up to somebody with that paper, hand it to them, and say, hey guys, my name's Pyrce. I just wanted to give you some information about the abortion amendment. It's going to have all of these negative impacts on our state. It's going to detrimentally affect our state, our community, and these changes are going to be permanent. These issues are permanently going to be enshrined in our state constitution. The guys over there at the table are going to lie to you and tell you that this amendment is supporting women and it's protecting babies. That's not the case. These 8 issues that we have outlined and that our legal team has analyzed and found with this amendment are serious issues that we don't want to see permanently enshrined in our state constitution. I'd encourage you to read over this, scan the QR code, go watch our videos, and hopefully change your mind about signing.
Nice.
That pitch turned away more people from their table than just standing there with big signs. So, if I had, and this is going to be a shout out for one of our Logan County people, Miss Debbie Green was just killing it in Logan County. She lives in Boonville, and she was covering everything from Clarksville to the Oklahoma state line, all the way out to Waldron. And she kept them boxed out of Logan County, and just like she was out there and she was doing the flyers as opposed to just the signs. And, that is a strategy that I think works. You just need some people that, are willing to go and do that. And then, if you're not, if someone's not able to help stop signature collection, because I don't know how that's going to look, they might only need to collect 5,000 signatures to qualify. If that's the case, that's knocked out in 2 days, and there's really nothing that we can do to stop it. Especially, now that they've gotten all the media coverage, even more of their own people, just like our people are becoming more aware about it, their people are becoming more aware about it as well. So beyond that, it's just going to come down to, knowledge. Do you know enough to tell someone else, to equip them to tell someone else? And just making sure that our people know what I just, that all it takes is that same pitch, say, hey, these changes are going to detrimentally impact not only our state, but your community. I don't want to see this go into law. You should vote against it, and tell your friends to vote against it too. Here's a few extra flyers. Scan that QR code, go see the videos, and, let's save some babies. So, yeah, it's going to come down to whose people show up to vote against it, and who are most knowledgeable, who have the most people that know about it to know to vote against it.
Pyrce, I want to thank you for coming on, man. If you guys don't have any other questions, we're going to wrap this up.
Man, I do. I want to say again before we wrap it up, it's not necessarily a question, but dude, you are an absolute bad A guy, man. You are an inspiration. I mean, where have we been? Where are the rest of us guys been? You're out there fighting like crazy, man, and you just turned 19. The world needs more Pyrce Renfros. I'm so impressed. I love you. I'm glad to call you a friend. You've inspired me. I'm going to get off my old butt and get to work because this is a big deal. It's way too important. I preach this to my own daughter about how this is my number one issue. Always has been and always will be. But where am I? I'm absent in this fight. And that can't stand when there's a 19-year-old young man like yourself out there fighting. Why can't I? So, man, thank you. God bless you for what you're doing. Please don't stop. Don't get discouraged. Let's get after it.
Absolutely. And y'all got my phone number. Just let me know when you want to get involved, and we'll get you going. So it's been a blast being on. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Yeah, Pyrce is going to keep fighting the good fight. Encourage you all to keep fighting the good fight. We're going to post links below this video. We're going to post on all our social media where you can find Pyrce, where you can find this information, where you can make a difference. Pastors, shout this from the pulpit. Christians, get out and vote against this. It is your job. It is your calling as a Christian to vote your biblical worldview. And Pyrce, thanks again for coming on. We enjoyed it. And until next time, keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you for listening to the Life After Sunday podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please give us a like and a comment, and go follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.